Was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's power. We were gonna stray. All tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. All tidings of comfort. Again, we'll get started 5 after, so in just a minute, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for all coming in and joining us for our presentation today. Hopefully everyone is feeling well on this Monday morning. So we are 5 after, so we'll go ahead and get started with our presentation this morning on toxic beauty products and Black women's health. And so happy to have you all here. We have a great discussion before us. And so this is dedicated to you for all of those that work in the field of industry of hairstylists, salons, in the beauty industry. We thought it would be great to be able to have a great discussion about, some of the needs that are needed in the industry, as well as looking at some of the possible solutions. So with that, we're going to go ahead and continue on. And so our agenda that we have here for today is pretty straightforward. And so we'll have some time where we go over the main content, looking at some of the beauty products that are, largely marketed to women of color, Black women, and also within your line of industry, some of the products that you may use to bring greater awareness for that. So we have 3 presenters, myself, alongside the 2 co-facilitators, which we'll introduce in just a bit. And then towards the end, leave some time for questions and answers, which I'm sure you all may have. And so we wanted to make sure that we have some time to address those. And then lastly, before we wrap up, being able to highlight some resources and also how you can become involved in some of the advocacy efforts, and then closing it out with an evaluation survey. So with that, we will continue on. I would like to introduce myself in our organization. So my name is Dr. Astrid Williams. I am the Environmental Justice Program Manager for Black Women for Wellness. So thank you all for joining us alongside Breast Cancer Prevention Partners. And we are putting on this discussion today. Our organization is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We've been around for about 25 years. And so we are so happy to be able to be in this space, to be able to share more on the work that we do. We like to uplift the Black community, and how we do that is through health education, empowerment, and advocacy for Black women and young girls. On the right side of the slide, you'll see a list comprised of the many different programs that we offer through our organization. I will note, as a base for our organization, we do have a reproductive justice framework. And so all of the work that we do is framed around that. There are so many intersections, as you may know, in relation to the work that we do. We do our sexual health and awareness, so Get Smart Before You Get Sexy, also our Grown and Sexy program, as well as some of the health education, such as our Sisters at A's, or civic engagement, I apologize. And then the health education relates to our Kitchen Diva and our food distribution program. And then you'll see here our environmental justice program, which is what we'll be sharing on here today. So with that, this is our environmental justice program that we have here. And so myself, as I mentioned, and also we have our program lead, Ms. Tianna Wakeman Smith, or excuse me, Wakeman, I apologize. And we have 2 prongs that we like to deliver out on. And so with that, we have 2 different buckets of work. And so that being the built environment, as you can see here, we do work in the community around water equity, empowering residents to be able to understand the water systems, if there is any issues with that, who to go to, what resources that they can utilize, as well as doing workshops in the community. Also, we work closely with our coalition called STAN, and that is to stop the neighborhood oil and well drillings in LA communities that are faced with that. And then lastly, we're getting into the area of plastics pollution. And so with that, we also do beauty justice work, which is centered around the work that you will hear in the discussion today. We do research with our Taking Stock study and empowerment through our Curls and Conversation workshops. And then lastly, we do like to advocate on behalf of this work through the Safer Beauty Bill package. And so I'd like to turn it over to Janet to introduce herself and to speak on breast cancer prevention partners.
Thank you so much, Astrid. Hello and welcome, everyone. We're so excited about today's webinar. I am the Senior Director of Program and Policy at Breast Cancer Prevention Partners. We are the only national science-based organization working to prevent breast cancer by identifying and eliminating the environmental links to the disease. And I also direct BCPP's Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, which has been working since 2004 to raise awareness about the problem of chemicals linked to toxic chemicals in the beauty and personal care products we use every day, to raise consumer demand for safer products, and in the process of doing so, grow the clean cosmetics industry from what was a $3 billion industry when we first started doing this work to a $15 billion industry today. And finally, to run big market campaigns that urge the giant multinational cosmetic companies to move towards safer products and production.
So at this time, before we get into the major discussion for the workshop today, we thought it would be fun and interesting just to, pose this question to you all and do a little interactive activity. And so Menti is the platform we're using here. It's very easy. We're going to put the link in the chat. And so if you could just share with us just one word to describe, or other, if you have more, but at least one word to describe how you're feeling about hair styling products that are marketed to you and or your clients. And so we would love to, hear back from you in regards to that, and we'll share with others. So we'll take a minute just to do that. And I am going to head to that screen while you all are doing that. So feel free to add your descriptive of how you feel within the work that you do. I know toxic, I see here, so we'll definitely be talking about that. But if there's any others. Unsafe. Concern, definitely, yes, definitely. Curious, like that. That's why we're here today, to talk more about that. So hopefully we'll address some of the concerns and the curiosity that we have. And so thank you for those that have shared, and feel free throughout the presentation to drop in your words or two in there, but we'll continue on. So I will turn it over to Tianna, and she's going to take this next portion to lead us on a little bit of the foundation about the non-toxic Black Beauty Project. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Tianna.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tianna, and I get to work with Dr. Astrid Williams at Black Women for Wellness. I serve as the Environmental Justice Program Lead. So next slide, please. So we're going to talk about the non-toxic Black Beauty Project, which is why we're all here today. And we wanted to start off with some true-false questions to frame the discussion that Janet and Dr. Williams is going to lead us in. So the first question I have for everyone today is true or false? Products used by hairstylists are well-regulated and completely safe for workers. If people could please put in the chat their answers. I see one person already say false, a couple false in the chat. If anyone else wants to add in your answers, false, false, lots of false. That's correct. Next slide, please. Yes, so beauty by the numbers. So it is true, that is false. The EU bans about 2,400 chemicals, whereas the United States only bans about 11 chemicals that are in our beauty products. There are very, very few pages governing US cosmetics. So you can see here in this graphic that the first line says that the last time the US passed cosmetics laws was in 1938. 1938 was the last time the US government decided it was important enough to make sure that the products we are using, stylists are using, clients are using, people in general are using, were safe for the people using them. And the documentation that outlines those things is only 2.5 pages. Yet, as Janet highlighted, and yet we'll see more in the presentation, this industry has massively grown, and the chemicals that are used in our products have exploded. So there's so many that need to be better regulated for everyone, everybody on this call, and everybody who uses products, goes to salons, or more specifically, those who are in the hairstylist industry. Next slide, please. So our next true-false question is, hairstylists have a risk of health harm due to regular exposure to certain hairstyling products. Would people like to say true or false to this question? True, true, true. Next slide, please. So the answer is true. Stylists are at an increased risk. So for Black women and hairstylists generally, there are many toxic ingredients found in products that have been linked to things you can see in this slide: breast cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine fibroids, fertility issues. There'll be a slide later on discussing the links between hair relaxers and certain types of cancer. And it's also true that things like formaldehyde found in chemical straighteners can have adverse effects on the health of both clients, but more specifically hairstylists as well. So these are just a few questions to help frame our discussion. And now I will turn it back to Dr. Astrid Williams to help really delve deep into the problem that we're all thinking about today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tianna. So yes, I will cover these next few slides in the presentation that we have here today. This is largely what we wanted to share with you about the environmental injustice of beauty and what that means. And so that's a term that we've coined here, but it addresses a lot of the concerns, as you can imagine, that Black women and women of color are faced with in working within your industry, your line of work. I'm sure you come across a lot of different products and chemicals, and may have, some questions, as it was shared in the Mentee presentation, or curious about whether or not they're safe. So this slide speaks to that. This is a large problem, a large scale problem. It's about $7.5 billion industry if we look at it in terms of the spending dollars that we play in the role of, purchasing beauty products, and whether that be through hair care, the styling, the beauty aids as such. And so it's a large scale problem that's very complex. Also, it has a lot of connections through social and cultural norms to promote these unhealthy, beauty standards here. And so the questions you may ask is why. So compared to white women, Black women or women of color have higher levels of beauty-related environmental and chemicals in their body. And we like to note that just in general, Black women or women of color carry a higher toxic load, and that can be from cumulative impacts. And so what we mean by that is with the products that we use, also the environment that we're in your situation or case, the environment that you're in every day, right? And working in salons, it has a higher exposures to chemicals that the average or everyday person may not. And so that does have an effect in the total relation to your risk that you may have. Also, there are some systemic problems or issues as well, because of the lack of regulations, which we'll talk about too as well, and skewed of industry and beauty standards. And so more of a Eurocentric, where your hair has to be of a certain texture or either straightened. Also in the workplace environment, discrimination in terms of more kinky or textured hair. And so also having to adhere to those guidelines and standards in your workplace for fear of discrimination. And so I know the Crown Act is something that we've been involved in, which is a law that's been enacted in various states, and it still is trying to get federal regulation across the board where individuals can feel free of, discrimination or retaliation for the way that they wear their hair, whether they wear and, more kinkier, textures or, non-traditional types of hairstyles, as well as the overarching problem of systemic racism, local environmental exposures, and then lack of access to healthcare and resources. And so those are things that play into the problem. So it's a multifaceted problem that I know we can't, readily solve in just, a presentation here today. That's why we're getting out information to you to be able to work together collaboratively so we can help to mitigate some of these issues here. So with that, we would like to play a short little film here that sets the tone for, why this exists and how it can have, so many implications long after from, being faced with structural racism. So we'll share the video.
Maybe just a blip. My dad always told me that I should love my hair. So I did.
Wait for me right here for a second. Excuse me, sir. We have a strict hair policy here. I'm afraid I can't let you attend school today.
Don't forget your hat. Even when it wasn't easy.
We talked about this. You can't wear braids if you want to walk at graduation.
Even when no one else did. My dad always told me that I should fight for my hair. So I am.
So as you can see from the film there, that the video highlights how structural racism can have very altering, long time effects from starting as early as, entering into, school and having, to conform to different societal standards in your hair. And so that is what we would like to, to touch on here today, is talking about not only, structural or societal norms and how that plays a role into the work that you do. This slide speaks largely to how just in the line of work and the environmental exposures that oftentimes Black women or Black individuals or people of color will say that are overexposed and underprotected. And so what does that mean? We're overexposed in so many ways in terms of the toxins and chemicals that we use in your line of work. I'm sure you use a lot of products and they may and may not be safe in terms of, the ingredients that are contained within, if we're looking at it, Tianna stated earlier, and chemical hair straighteners, they may have formaldehyde, but there also may be other things in there like parabens and other types of preservatives that really are not good or disrupted to the reproductive system. And so that can have long-lasting effects. And so overexposed definitely and underprotected as well, meaning that, there's lack of or very little regulation around these, types of products within the industry. And so we held just probably about a month ago, a listening session with some of our, stakeholders, our hairstylists that we work closely in the community, and just wanted to, raise up some of the responses that were shared in our discussion that we had from hairstylists that participated in this discussion. And so one, as you can see here, spoke to, she's been in the industry and over, several years, she's been doing braiding, and that, just with, the repetitive motions in there, how that has really had an impact and toll on her and her body with the numbness in there, but also I think even more so speaking to this issue in terms of the toxins that are contained within the products. One of the stylists said that she doesn't do perms anymore as one of her services that she offers in there because she feels that, when she is exposed to this, some of the powders that can be contained in the bleaching, like if you're, doing your hair services, she tries to, minimize that. And so that also is another issue as well. If we're talking about, respiratory conditions and concerns in there. There are so many different things that you can be exposed to. And so this just speaks to that in part of the discussion that we had. So in getting it, and the work that we do at Black Women for Wellness, we do beauty justice work. And what does that look like? So we are a part of various coalitions, as we noted before. One notably here is Californians for a Greener Economy, which is the Change Coalition. We work closely with that organization or coalition in regards to looking at occupational hazards within the various types of industry. Our industry that we work with, as I mentioned before, is with hairstylists in that community. And so I'm wanting to be able to impart, information and awareness, which leads to our campaigns that we've implemented. So there's two larger campaigns that we have. One is behind the chair, where we do education and awareness around the toxins and products that they commonly use in the industry. And then also the styling safety, which is more of an awareness, where we have information, as you can see here, highlighted some of the posters that we, give to stylists to be able to put in their salons, to also give education around how they can, reduce or minimize their exposures to some of these toxins that are contained within the products. And then lastly, through these last 2 points here, during COVID, as you can know, when a lot of the industries were affected, we gave out micro grants to stylists because they were not able to be open during this time, and it definitely had an effect on their overall, ability to be able to make a living and earning for that. And so to be able to support, we were able to give out some monetary funds and grants in to be able to assist during that time of closures. And then lastly, research and advocacy, which we do. Won't get into great detail, but we also have information on our website about our taking stock study that we've done within the Los Angeles area. And we'll talk more in the presentation about some advocacy efforts. So here, just to highlight two of some of the many studies in here that have come out that show links, if we haven't already shared before, about being overexposed. And so one, as you can see here, talks to, hair straighteners and chemicals that are, associated with a high risk of uterine cancer. This was taken from the Washington Post that came out last month. And so it highlights, women who use these types of, services products, they can have a greater risk for uterine cancer, as well as the sister study, as you can see on the right here, its connection to permanent hair dyes and straighteners have an increased risk of breast cancer. And as a whole, I would just say that Black women, again, as we're talking about our toxic loads, have a higher risk and carry a higher toxic load in there. But even if we look at specifically the types of breast cancer that Black women get is more of aggressive, and we die at a higher rate than any other ethnic counterpart. So again, the whole notion is to reduce our exposures and also look at, ways that we can prevent, breast cancer as a whole. And then just wanting to note some of the links between the beauty products that we use and how that can lead to adverse, effects overall. Here you can look on 2 prongs. So on the left-hand side, you can see some of the exposures through the different types of products that we use largely, and even in your everyday in terms of the services that you may provide. But as being females or individuals or, those that are in the industry, it's not just related to the salon products, but, also as we talk back to those cumulative impacts. And so your grooming products and aids linked with, the services and the products that you use, all of that do add up. And then in relation to what does that look like, or what are some of the adverse effects, as you can see here on the right-hand side. Breast cancer, as just noted, but Black women as a whole have a higher risk for endometriosis, also uterine fibroid, polycystic PCOS, ovarian syndrome, and then other types of, chronic conditions. And so just being mindful of the products that we use and trying to reduce our, our exposures to that can also have, better outcomes in regards to our health. And so with that, I am going to turn it over to Janet, which is going to continue on with some of those ways that we can look at the Black Beauty Project and talk a little bit more about that. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Astrid. Next slide, please. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about our non-toxic Black Beauty Project, and then ways that you can get engaged to help solve this problem. you've heard a lot about the problem of toxic chemicals in the products used by hair salon workers and marketed to Black women. And the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics wanted to do something about this problem. So we created just this year our non-toxic Black beauty project with the help of Black Women for Wellness and an advisory committee made up of 20 leading scientists and nonprofit organizations working to improve the health of Black women. The project has 4 goals, and the very first goal is to raise public awareness, the awareness of businesses and retailers about the problem of hazardous chemicals in Black beauty products, because we can't do something as a society about a problem that we don't know exists, or a problem that we aren't in agreement needs a solution. Next slide, please. So first and foremost, the primary objective of this project was to help get safer products into the hands of Black women and girls. So we created a list of 80 verified as safe, non-toxic, Black-owned beauty companies so that Black women could shop with confidence, knowing that the beauty and personal care products that they were purchasing did not contain chemicals linked to negative health effects. And this database, which you can find on safecosmetics.org, which is the website of the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, can be searched by product category, by ingredients of concern, by a company's name, by a price point. And it's really very easy to search through this database in order to find, again, beauty products that are safe and the companies that sell them. Next slide, please. The third goal of the campaign was to create the types of resources that Black women and salon workers could use to help them better understand the presence of toxic chemicals in Black beauty products, where the chemicals are, by product category, the chemicals to avoid, etc. And you can see on this slide here some of the really beautiful infographics and tip cards that we created that are available on our website. You can download them, again, at safecosmetics.org, and 2 fact sheets that are really helpful that list the 51 chemicals of concern that we found in a quarter, 25% of the 8,000 Black beauty products and personal care products that we evaluated for safety in 2021 over the past year, as well as another fact sheet that shows you where those chemicals are present, again, by product category. Next slide, please. And then lastly, we decided it was very important to help grow the Black beauty industry and the availability of safer Black beauty products. This year, we have 80 companies, Black-owned companies, that we're featuring on our list of non-toxic Black beauty brands, but we hope to grow that list to a much larger universe of companies with your help. So we're inviting you to nominate your favorite Black beauty brand to the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics. We will then evaluate the product ingredients for safety that are made and sold by that company. And again, we hope to grow the universe of companies making safer products by providing technical support to those companies who did not make the list, but want to do better over the next year. Again, invite you to do so by visiting our website, safecosmetics.org. The next slide, please. So right about now, you're probably wondering, how is it possible that it's legal for companies to sell beauty and personal care products containing chemicals linked to cancer, birth defects, reproductive harm, endocrine disruption, etc.? Most people think that cosmetics are regulated the same way for safety, the same way that the Food and Drug Administration regulates food and drugs. And the reality is that could not be further than the truth. There's only about 2.5 pages of federal law that exists to regulate the $100 billion cosmetic safety industry. And that federal law, which was created in 1938, has only been updated once since then. So what that means is that companies can use virtually any raw material as a cosmetic ingredient, including chemicals with known impacts, no negative impacts on human health. What that also means is that the FDA doesn't conduct any pre-market safety testing of cosmetic ingredients or any review of the safety of cosmetic ingredients, and that the FDA can't issue mandatory recalls of cosmetic products, even when they are known to be harming human health. And one really good example you might be aware of is a hair straightening product called Brazilian Blowout, which was being sold as formaldehyde-free, was being marketed as formaldehyde-free, but when the product was tested, it was found to contain over 10% formaldehyde by weight. And that's more formaldehyde than an undertaker uses to embalm a dead person. And when these hair straightening products, Brazilian Blowout and other hair straightening products, are heated, they release formaldehyde into the air. And many hair salon workers have been complaining of asthma and other respiratory conditions. And we're beginning to see more and more cancers in hair salon workers that are being linked to their use of products like Brazilian Blowout, which contains formaldehyde, as I mentioned, which is also a known human carcinogen. Next slide, please. So what you heard from Astrid and you heard from Tianna as well is that hair salon products contain a number of chemicals of concern. And this is just really the tip of the iceberg, because the US Food and Drug Administration has only ever banned 13 chemicals from the beauty and personal care products we use every day, compared to over 1,800 chemicals which are banned from beauty and personal care products by the European Union. And some of these chemicals, which are of particular concern to hair salon workers, include formaldehyde, which I mentioned, are present not only in hair straightening products, but also used as preservatives. And a lot of products that you use every day, long chain parabens, which is another family of endocrine disrupting compounds that are used in hair salon products, M, O, and P phenylenediamine, which can be found in hair dyes. Again, these chemicals are linked to cancer and also hormone disruption, and also a family of chemicals called phthalates, which are present in many fragrances, which are used to make the salon products you use smell good, and also present in nail polish and feminine hairspray and other personal care products and salon products as well. Next slide, please. So my very last slide talks about the federal Safer Beauty Bill package. And this is a suite of 4 bills that were drafted by the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, Black Women for Wellness, and about 6 other nonprofit organizations to fill critical gaps in cosmetic safety that are impacting all of us, particularly salon workers and women of color. And just very quickly, the first bill would ban the worst of the worst chemicals from salon products and beauty products. The second bill would close the federal labeling loophole that allows companies to hide secret fragrance chemicals in cosmetics. The third bill would force the disclosure of the ingredients in personal salon products. In salon products and personal care and beauty products currently by law, these ingredients don't have to show up in the products that you're working with every day, which creates a real a dangerous situation for salon workers as well as for their customers. And then finally would require supply chain transparency so that businesses have the information they need to make and sell safer products. I think that's it for me. Next slide.
So thank you so much, Janet, for presenting on that, learning more about the Black Beauty Project and how we can be involved in the efforts for that. So we wanted to have a little bit of time to answer any questions or anything that may have come up along the way. And so I will stop sharing and go back here into the main screen. So feel free if you want to share in the chat, or if you want to come off of mute, what resonated with you in the discussion, how you're feeling. I know we asked that in the beginning, how do you feel about these products that are marketed to you and to your clients, or either, maybe more explanation on some of the things that were mentioned in there. See, feel free to put them in the chat as well.
Hi, I can't see people's faces, and I don't know if I'm jumping in here out of turn. I'm on a phone. This is Christina Peel, and I'm actually a board member of BCPP. I want to thank everybody for participating, and absolutely to the organizers for all the work you do. My question is, why is it so expensive to make natural, healthy products? Why are the products that are better for us on the shelf so much more expensive than, Johnson & Johnson, for example? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Christina, for your question. I can hop in, and then others feel free to add to it. Like that you noted Johnson & Johnson, because we, along with BCPP, as well as other partners, have had an aggressive campaign towards Johnson & Johnson, obviously, for the toxins, asbestos that's contained in their, baby powder products in relation to, ovarian, and other types of cancer in their reproductive health. And them, what is it? Not even, looking at the fact that this is, something that needs to be addressed, or dismissing is the word, I guess, one of the things to say that, the health outcomes. And so not until recently, they said that they were going to, stop doing it globally, but definitely is an issue and a problem that needs to stop across worldwide. But to get into the point about, why some of these products that are used is because that sometimes quality products or ingredients come at a higher cost, and companies, if they're, smaller, company, they may not be able to afford, these products in terms of, building it out, their product and their brands. And so they do use products that, are not, as good as we would like them to have, but also noting that they may not be aware of the issue. So it may not just be that, they're trying to just get cheaper products that are not good, but, bringing awareness. And so that's why the Non-Toxic Black Beauty Project is definitely, timely. And so that we can work with them as they build out their products, and also to look at how they can improve upon that. And so feel free for others to add to that as well, if you would like.
I think one of the connections to affordability is, for a long time, there's been this myth that Black people specifically weren't interested in clean beauty, and therefore, whenever something is a niche brand or is considered niche, then that elevates the price point. But I think, and also a lot of the toxic, not a lot of them, but some of the toxic chemicals we talk about act as preservatives or act as fillers. And so some of it is the way that the beauty industry works, and that a retailer might want a something on their, to be able to be on their shelf for a couple of years or for a couple of months, in which case the brand or company feels like they need to put in these toxic things in order for them to last longer. Affordability, the first ingredient we might see in a lot of products is water. And in order to keep bacteria out, then they'll say we need all of these other products. And then we have fragrance. They'll say we need fragrances to smell better because of, goes back to the white beauty standards and all the beauty standards we all navigate with. So I think it's a lot of it, I think, is products being formulated without good research, and products being formulated based off of misconceptions and based off of, honestly, just false information and different standards based off of the industry and retailers. So I think what this project is doing well is kind of breaking that myth that we all deserve cleaner products and safer products, and then B, showing that there is a big market and that we can create more affordable products as well. But Janet, I'm curious your opinion, because I know you've been the one doing a lot of the digging in when it comes to each of the brands on the list.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tianna. And I love that you brought up the subject of packaging and preservatives. And it's exactly right what you were talking about. I just want to add on to that thread. What some of the safer beauty companies, they're calling themselves the clean cosmetic companies, are doing is they're actually changing the packaging. Because there are very few safer preservatives. And so the big multinationals use parabens, or they use formaldehyde releasing preservatives, both of which are linked to cancer. And the clean cosmetic companies don't want to use those chemicals, but there aren't that many safer alternatives. So what they've done is they've changed the packaging so that the bacteria that Tianna referred to can't get into the packaging, because the actual packaging itself is designed to prevent that. So for example, Venus Williams has a company called 11, and she makes this awesome sunblock that you apply. It actually has like a dropper that goes into a very thin entryway, and then you apply it onto your skin. It's a sunblock for the face, not for your whole body, like through the dropper. So only a small amount goes directly under your skin. You're not digging your hands, like into a product that could introduce bacteria. And more makeup is coming to consumers that way. But creating that type of packaging is, of course, really expensive. And that creates the kind of deterrent that Chris was talking about in terms of the price point. But I just want to also say, not all expensive products are safer, and cheaper products are more toxic, because sometimes products made by Lancome or Estee Lauder or the really like big brands are more expensive, but they're not safer.
Thank you for noting that, Janet. Also, one of the resource slides that we have at the end, has websites that you can go into to put in your products to decipher whether or not they're clean or cleaner or safer in there. So a very great question to discuss. Any others?
Hello, everyone. Just wanted to say I definitely appreciate this forum and this conversation. I find that I have been concerned as a hairstylist for several years about, products, and doing my best to avoid certain ones and research or look on the internet as far as like what's bad, what's not. But I'm finding it very difficult to know what the truth is. I feel like a lot of times, like, I'll read about a product that's on the bad list, and then when I Google it, they're like, oh, this is not bad. This is what it's used for, and this is why, and it's okay. And so it's very difficult to navigate like the lies from the truth, because it comes from seemingly reputable places, and obviously companies and big, companies that use these products want to make you think they're safe, even if they're not. So I guess this is a good start, because I feel like just from this presentation that I can trust this website, et cetera, as far as what's good or what's not. But I think that's also a huge issue. And then to find also things that actually work. So the idea of switching stylists and people to using the products that are not toxic for you, because the toxicity happens over time. So you don't get the immediate result of the product working, like, especially like with hair color. I'm very curious as to what am I supposed to use as an effective hair color when I can't use what we're saying is toxic. So like, yeah, where does that meet, I guess? And how are we getting to that part?
Could I jump in, Astrid? Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
So the one thing that I wanted to mention, and thank you, Morgan, so much for your comment, is if you visit the campaign's website, again, safecosmetics.org, there's a whole glossary of chemicals of concern that you can spend some time with to teach you about which chemicals are linked to which health effects, which populations are most vulnerable to specific chemicals of concern: pregnant women, salon workers, again, women of color, kids, and then also the product categories that contain chemicals of concern and how to avoid them. So that's one way to educate yourself. The issue of hair dyes is a really tricky one, and a problem of particular concern for Black women, because the National Institute for Environmental Health Sciences did the sister study and found that Black women who regularly dye their hair, Astrid shared this slide earlier, experience a 60% increased risk of breast cancer, which is insane. And that's compared to white women who regularly dye their hair. So clearly the hair dyes that are being marketed to Black women are more toxic, or something else is going on. I know that of one company that is making non-toxic hair dyes, and they're called hair print, like fingerprint, but it's hair print instead. And we could look and try to find some additional companies to refer you to and send that information to the attendees of this webinar. But I know that hair dyes are meant, when you think about what they're meant to do, it's a very aggressive act to change your hair color. And so very aggressive chemicals are needed to do that. But more and more green chemists are looking to develop safer alternatives for the chemicals in hair dyes and hair straighteners as well.
I also, thank you for saying all that, Janet. I also want to very briefly say, and this is something we talk about a lot within our circles, is that none of us should have to look into this. Like, you as hairstylists should not have to purchase personal protective equipment to do all this research and get all the kinds of crazy information. We should be protected by regulators. Companies should do better research before putting things on the market, instead of the reactive research they currently do, which is a lot of consumers say they have a problem and then they maybe research it and change. And we have to put the onus on industry and on government to change. Like this, it's not just the problem that we're articulating related to toxic chemicals in Black beauty. It's the system that we're all within, and having to do all of this work shouldn't exist that way. So I think part of it is doing our research and trying to share resources like we're doing today on this webinar, and then also being as gentle and kind with ourselves as we can, to know that we're all trying to do our best, and we also shouldn't even have to be doing this in the first place. Though we do have, thankfully, great resources from BCPP and Black Women for Wellness and others, because we do have to keep up with it at the same level. So also, if there are any further questions, please do reach out to us. Our information will be on the last slide coming up in a couple minutes as well.
Thank you.
And I think to Tianna's point, consumers should be demanding that the government invest in green chemistry, safer alternatives. Most students go through chemistry courses, get chemistry degrees. They never even learn about toxicology, the health effects related to the chemicals that they're creating. And there's more, hundreds and hundreds of chemicals that are created all the time, new chemicals. So the government should be investing in green chemistry, safer alternatives. The big multinational companies should be using their research and development funds to do the same thing, so that consumers have access to safer products.
Yes, thank you. And with that, having opportunities for people of color to go into these STEM careers, because it's beneficial to have those that look like us and face the same challenges, to go into, medicine and, science, types of career, to further the research, and also to get those to be a part of the research studies, because there's this disparity, as well as, having Black people who, for fear or lack of trust, to participate in a lot of these, studies. So we can see, some of the health implications on that. So it's a multifaceted problem, definitely. Any other questions or anything that you might want to highlight? If not,
Looks like Vicky. I'm wondering if Vicky has a question. No, maybe not.
Well, I know we can, if we do move on, I can also, if there's any that come up in the chat, I can try to respond to them as well as we continue on the presentation.
okay, great. All right. So this last section here is dedicated to some of those resources that we were alluding to. So as you can see here, we have some of the resources as well as organizations that have been working together to be able to provide more education and awareness around it. So highlighting the Non-Toxic Black Beauty Project, which is in collaboration for the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, and also looking at other resources as consumers, as hair care professional or beauty professionals, where if there's a product that you use and you're like, oh, okay, curious to know, what are some of the ingredients in there? Are there, chemicals of concern? EWG, which is the Environmental Working Group, is a great resource for Skin Deep. It's an app that you can go on, as well as Claria is an add-on, to your browser that you can go to check when you're, purchasing or either, looking at various products to buy or purchase. You can go in there and it will give you a breakdown or overview of those ingredients that are contained in there. So that's a great resource. Some of the other organizations that are working collaboratively, which is Women's Voices for the Earth. And then also another partner that we have that does a lot of the research that we've mentioned or alluded to is Silent Spring Institute. And so these are some additional resources that hopefully you can be able to utilize in your everyday efforts. And so before we go, I just wanted to take a moment here to just let us know how we did today for this presentation, as this is the first of our series. And so this one is dedicated wholly to you as salon or hairstylist. And so we wanted to know how we can improve. What did you like? And so there's just a brief survey here. This is the QR code. If you scan it right now, it should come up on your phone to take you to an additional website, which is has a survey there so that you can fill that out. And so we would encourage you, if you could, just to take a few minutes out of your time right now to be able to do this survey. And so we'll leave it up here. And then we just have one other. So also Christina, if I do think you're here.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. And so if we can put in the chat the link to the survey, so I'll move forward to the next slide, which so thankfully Christina can share about this upcoming event opportunity.
Hi, everyone. And I wanted to thank Astrid and Tianna for inviting me and just carving out this time in the presentation for me. So thank you very much. And just thank you to all the speakers. It was very informative. And I know I learned a lot. And there's a lot of hair care products that I've used, and I definitely want to just be more educated in this. And so my name is Christina, and I am the co-owner of Curly Girl Love Beauty Supply. We are a beauty supply located near the South Bay Galleria Mall on Hawthorne and Redondo Beach. We're a new store. We just opened in March of 2022. Me and my husband opened it, and this is part of our passion. We sell everything from hair care products to hair and extensions and braiding hair, but we really pride ourselves on having like a large natural hair section, a lot of Black owned brands as well. And so our mission is to provide high quality premium hair care products, as well as educate the community. And so as you see on the slide, we're having an event. It's called Curl Care 101 with Dr. Carrie Williams. And I'm sure there's a few people at least in here who might be familiar with Dr. Williams. Dr. Carrie, she is the creator of the goddess locks. Like, she created that style that you see a lot of people wearing these days. She's also a trichologist, a celebrity hairstylist. She's just amazing. She used to be a salon owner as well. She's been in the industry for 20 years. And so we're excited to have her on December 10th come to our store and just answer any questions anyone has about hair. It's going to be just an open forum of really learning from her and learning from each other. That's part of our mission as Curly Girl Love, to create a safe space for women of color and curly haired women to learn about our hair from each other. And so it's an awesome opportunity to network and just have answer any questions you might have about your own hair, and then even how to service your clients. And I know she also has like a program for stylists specifically where you can train with her as well. And so there's a lot going on that day. It's just 1 hour at 4 p.m. and it's located at our store. If you want to RSVP, or you have to, it's free, but you have to RSVP to attend. And so you can go to our website, curlygirllove.com, curly, then GURLLUV.com, and just RSVP there. And I hope to see some of you there, because there's going to be giveaways and prizes and just a really good time. We've done this before, and the last time in July, we had 50 people from the community come out. And so that's how we're doing it again. And so just thank you all for listening. And we're also on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah.
Thank you, Christina. And just to know, a shout out. So yes, Dr. Carey, if you know Megan Good, the actress, in her goddess locks, I believe she is her stylist for that. So just to make a connection for that. So definitely.
Yes. And she also styles like Ava DuVernay's hair. Like when I say celebrity hairstylist, I mean like the A-listers, okay?
Right. Yes, definitely. So sounds like a great event. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And then this last slide here is just thank you so much for everyone who's participated in the call today. Again, this is just the first of the series. And so we do have another one coming up on the 7th, and that'll be dedicated to our our healthcare providers and nurses. And so if you know anyone who would like to join us, in that discussion, feel free to have them register for that event. And then next week we have one for the general community on the 14th. And so again, another opportunity for others to engage in the discussion here. But we want to thank you all. This is our contact information. So if you would like to keep in contact with us, you have our emails listed here below. Janet at bcpp.org, myself, Astrid at bwwla.org, and then Tianna at bwwla.org, as well as all of our socials here. Again, just flagging the campaign for Safe Cosmetics. And that is a resource definitely, in addition to, as we noted, the Non-Toxic Black Beauty Project, where you can find a variety of different resources that we've mentioned here today. So thank you so much for attending today's event.
Thank you.